Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 82 of The World Which Is. I come back. Another arrow, and the way too large rat slides to a stop just before the halfway point. That's the third fight. Ellen doesn't have to get involved, and I'm up another archery level. As we pass the corpse, I take a look at their loot inventory. It's mostly meat and pieces of fur, but there's been the occasional interesting thing, like a small gear Ellen says goes into magical contraptions tinkerers and other builder classes can make. This time I find a small opal. I doubt it's worth all that much, but one lesson traveling is teaching me is that I need to gather everything of worth unless I want to find out what it's like being in a city without being able to pay for what I need. I really should look for the hidden caches, but that's time I don't want to bother with, and I have no idea how to go about finding them, other than pawing at each centimeters of the wall. We reach an intersection, and I take the right turn again. Ellen, I think we're backtracking. That looks like a burn patch on the wall. Could be from Silver's explosion. Dennis, it's possible. Keeping to the right wall isn't an effective way to do a maze, but it means we shouldn't get lost. Silver, shouldn't? Dennis, well, I'm not taking for granted the system isn't going to change things on us. Ellen, I'm confident dungeons don't work under specific rules. The system can't just change things to piss you off. Dennis, unless you know what those rules are, my comment stands. It's just going to be the dungeons trying to kill us instead of the system. I see motion ahead before I hear the creatures. Looks like more rats. Ellen's vision spell is really good. I glance at Silver and she shakes her head, so we back up. A few minutes later, she gives the go-ahead and we approach again. She plays, the music builds until the explosion, then about half the large rats run in our direction. I calmly shoot the arrows at them and they die. The last two go up in flame as they cross the midpoint. Nothing worth in their loot inventory. This time we're in a cavern instead of another tunnel. And the second such a room, you know what? That's going to be get back here. The second such room. The rats were gathered around the kill. I can't tell the animal it had been just from lines, and I don't know that seeing it normally would help. 3 openings, so I take the right one. There are stairs, Ellen whispers. She's looking into the left passages. We should stick to the system, I reply. The old man said what he wants is on the last floor. That means down. All we're doing, sticking to your system is taking longer to reach it. She's right, but not sticking to the system means a chance to get lost, and that will cost us more time. So, do I think it's going to be more time to go down and get lost, or stick to the system and eventually get back here? I mentally curse Brandon for making me feel like I don't have the luxury of doing this properly, and join Ellen at the stairs. Can you make a mark in the wall so there's no doubt that's where we came in? That's where we came from? She steps to it while I look down. There's a landing 2, maybe 3 meters down. Nothing visible on it. Ellen returns, and I look over my shoulder. In the tunnel's wall, there's now an arrow carved into it. You know what? There's now an arrow carved into the tunnel wall, pointing the way we came. I advance to the landing alone, sword and shield in hand. Once I confirm it's safe, I motion to them. It's about the same length to the floor. I go first again. The tunnel is straighter, the wall squarer. Far in the distance, there is motion. Um, there is movement. I motion to them. Again, I move ahead alone, bow in hand this time. The lack of cranny for creatures to hide in means I have to fight the urge to move faster. This is a dungeon. There is no telling what's hiding in plain sight. Or underfoot, it turns out. The floor breaks apart as I put weight on it, and and I'm tipping forward. My arms pinwheel, and my bow goes flying somewhere ahead of me. More of the floor breaks as my body falls on it. Then I'm grabbing onto an edge that's supporting me, looking down into the darkness. In the distance under me, there are points. Ellen and Silver are yelling for me, but I'm too busy pulling myself up to respond. More of the floor breaks as I put a leg up for purchase, and I'm forced to use my upper body strength to get me there. Fuck, I am glad I put those 4 points in there. I stretch and immediately sit as the floor under my head breaks away. I test the floor around me and end up in an area roughly half a meter in diameter. And I'm not thinking about how it's being held up since I didn't see anything there while hanging off its edge. The hallway is about 4 meters wide. The gap around me is also about half a meter, except toward Ellen and Silver. It's closer to a meter and a half. A little more of it, and a little less height. Less height from me, and I'd fallen into what has to be spikes at the bottom. Ellen, are you okay? I'm fine. Then you could have answered. You scared the shit out of us. I was kind of making sure mine didn't end up in my pants too. Yeah, I reply, probably more angrily than she deserves. This is on me, not her. I've heard stories of dungeon and that there are traps in them. Seen movies too. So I should have been at least looking for a play for a looking for a boulder to roll down on us. I should have at least been looking for a boulder to roll down on us from. To roll down on us. Or holes in the walls for spikes to spring from. At least I survived this reminder that it's not just creatures that are dangerous in here. It's the dungeon itself. I stand and look around. My bow is near the wall, so a full meter away. What are you doing? I call out as Silver puts her foot down and the floor collapses under it. Testing for the part that's going to support our weight. There's gotta be a path, right? She puts her foot next to that and the floor breaks too. Ellen does the same in the other direction, and quickly there's no floor for a quarter of a meter. Looks like we have to jump it, Ellen says. Let's not jump to conclusion, I reply before she does anything drastic. Silver snickers. What can magic do here? Carry us to the other side? We don't know where that is, and no, I don't have any transportation magic. If I did, we wouldn't have been roughing it out there as much as we did. No easy solution. How about a way to test the floor? Maybe collapse everything that's not able to hold our weight? Or how about reshaping the floor so it will support us? Collapsing it is easy, she replies. She stretches and looks under the floor. No visible support, probably magic. And I don't have a way to detect magical support, so I can't guide us through the correct path. Reinforcing it? Silver asks. My earth magic isn't really in that direction or all that strong. Air and fire are what I've trained, water after that. Earth, well, not that much use for that in this city. She chuckles. Mother and father keep chastising me about not rounding out my build. She stands and raises her hand. Wait, what about my bow? Can you get that to me? Maybe fly it on air? I can't make things fly, Dennis. Best I can do is create a torrent of air under it and support it that way. But, she cuts me off, that's going to exert pressure on the floor. If it's made to break away, it will. You can get another bow when we get back to the city. But Base made that one for me. I'm sorry, Dennis, but I think our lives are more important than a bow. She's right, but how am I going to explain how I lost it to him? Wait, Silver calls. How about blasting it away? That's going to break the floor anyway. And I replies, but the bow is not going to be there anymore. She moves to the wall and looks along the floor. I can't tell how far the trap is. With the momentum I'll impart, if it lands on a fragile part of the floor, it could break through. What if you hit it along the floor? That's going to send it skipping up and away. That doesn't solve the problem of how far. As far as you can, I say, looking at the distant motion. There are creatures all the way back there, so the floor's solid. I'd rather have to retrieve it from them than lose it. I can't get it that far, so there's no guarantee it's going to land on solid floor. Do the best you can, Ellen. She goes down to a knee, then speaks. I can't make sense of the word. When she speaks, I can't make sense of the words. She moves her hands and then points. Nothing happens. She does it again, or I'm guessing it's the same thing. The hand motions are the same, but the sounds aren't like before. Or maybe they are. I don't recall what they sounded like. Magic. When she points, I think nothing happens. Then the floor breaks apart along the bottom of the wall. The ball bounces and the line bounces and the lines, that is how I see it, become indistinct in the distance. All that's left of the floor along the wall is a platform about a quarter of a meter in diameter just before where the bull was, and 1 2 meters further. 3 meters after that, the floor remains intact. I can't make out if there's a wall under there or not. I drop and look under the floor. I thought the lack of line was, I don't know, but that hadn't registered as important until now. There are no lines supporting the floor where Silver and Ellen stand. I pass my hand under the section of under my section and confirm there's nothing. Is your floor supported by anything? Silver mimicked my actions and her hands touch something. Does it mean that the dungeon can block Ellen's magical sight? Or is it because the walls perfectly flat, they lack a contour for the sight to register? The important thing is that the floor is supported. I do not want to think about making my way through a dungeon with a floating floor. Do you think that's where the trap ends? Silver asks. Only one way to know. Ellen speaks meaningless sound, makes gestures, and this time she opens her hands, and the only reason I'm not knocked off my piece of floor is that I readied myself for something. The wind is strong, the kind that's ripped off roof back in court. It's not long. Then there are 13 sections of floor floating amidst nothing until, with a straight line, the floor resumes. There are no obvious paths, but enough of the patches are jumpable we can cross. We sit down as soon as we are back on solid ground to catch our breath. I pass out jerky while we rest. I don't know if it's close to lunchtime, but after that, I need to eat something. And that concludes chapter 82 of The World Which Is. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available for free on Royal Road. If you want to support me and read ahead of Royal Road, that is on my Patreon. We're about 10 chapters ahead. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.